somebody mentioned something about entitlements, and I really agree with that, in the sense of these entitlements. My mother came from Russia, my father came from Turkey when he first came here. They worked 24/7. They did what they had to do to achieve a livelihood in the States. And today, what we see is migration to, well, it's tough. I know specific people that if this crashes, I won't have this plan available to me. I won't have this, not that. Well, I'm supposed to be, I'll be up 4 or 5 o'clock every morning. You get out till late hours of the night. Is it fun? No. It hurts, right? But you do what you have to do. And what I see in our culture now is that we are building a very lazy society. Somebody wants something for nothing. It almost has to come to the, what I call forced participation. You are forced to pick yourself up by your bootstraps and move on. There's nothing wrong on a temporary basis for helping individuals get back on their feet, but it's not a way to sustain this country, community, small businesses, and there's this connection between the peripherals of global corporations and small businesses that makes everybody successful. So, like I said here, we just want to state that, like, from a global corporation, we do have a concern with what happens to our local small businesses, because that definitely will change what our costs will be. That's all.
Hi, I'm Susan Elkington, Vice President of Administration at Toyota Manufacturing in South Princeton. Thank you for inviting us today and hearing the input from so many community members. At Toyota, we've been celebrating our 15-year anniversary last year, and at that time we announced the expansion of our volume, primarily due to additions of the hybrid technology coming to our facility, but then also exporting to 2 major regions, Australia and Russia. So for us, and with that adding 400 jobs, so our job total number is about 4,800 in the facility. So with that, though, some of our key struggles, of course, continue to be about exports and trade markets. With those additional markets, we're going to be exporting to 20 different countries from our facility, which a lot of people are not aware of that. And it allows us to continue to have some growth in this facility. The other part is on the jobs is the skill level. Us being the sort of large fish in the area, we can do a lot of screening and training on site, but not just for us to be able to fill our positions, which sometimes are struggling. It is for all our suppliers in the region. And we don't want to pull more suppliers. We try not to do that, but there's only a limited number of resources available. So it's really about those higher than a high school, but less than 4 years, 2 years. So we're working with the IE techs and the NCS universities and those types of schools. That definitely is a issue.
My name is Bob Bailey. I'm with National Construction News here in Evansville. Excuse me. We report on new construction in 100 Mile Radius of Evansville. We coordinate the bidding process on buildings, water treatment plants, and sewage treatment plants. Recently started a new business, Spec 4 Consulting and Supply, where we do some consulting work and supply business materials. I applied to the Indiana Department of Transportation in order to get certified through them. I'm Vietnam veteran service and related disability. I was informed that they do not offer a service disabled veteran small business program at this time. However, looking on their application on page 4 for ownership, if I was a former NPA soldier or if I was a former Vietcong soldier, there's a spot for me. So I guess my question is, why do Vietcong and NPA get preference over former NPA soldiers? I also applied to the VA so I can bid on bid ops, federal business opportunities. I've done that in November. I still don't have, and they make me resubmit 2 or 3 times, which I've done. They give me like 3 days to resubmit, and then it's a 2 to 3 month waiting period to hear something back. Nothing. I I went to your office, talked there, and Humphrey, which does an excellent job. It's very, very good, really impressive there. And she took my information, was going to check into it. The last time I called and asked them, I was supposed to revert back July 16th and asked them if they'd tell them I said they liked that. So I have those are my questions.
Yeah.
Morning, Congressman. Thanks for sponsoring this roundtable. As Steve mentioned already, I'm from National Bank Legal Counsel and have government relations. And we just celebrated our 175 years in the community a few years ago. I've watched the ups and downs of the local economy like the rest of you. Probably, as Steve mentioned, we're the most regulated industry in the room. I couldn't say for sure. I don't know what Toyota has to go through. Personal Myers has to endure a lot. Perhaps Alcoa. There's more coming our way, and the banking industry is not in favor, either politically or economically at this point in time. Yet the banking industry is critical to providing financing for the economy. The Dodd-Frank Act, as you and I have discussed many times, Congressman, is hanging over our heads like healthcare is hanging over the heads of the rest of the economy. We've got a double whammy, so to speak. But the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and its new regulations that are coming out, as well as the unwritten rules from Dodd-Frank that range in the hundreds that we're waiting for. Fortunately, as I mentioned the other night to someone, fortunately they're not written yet, but it's still impacting our industry. So regulatory uncertainty, expense burdens for smaller banks. Old National's about $10 billion in size. Smaller community banks are going to be impacted even more. So what Dodd-Frank was intended to address was too big to fail, and what it's going to create is consolidation in the industry. Smaller banks will raise the white flag and give up because of the regulatory burdens, and other banks will get bigger. So you know all these issues. Appreciate your leadership in Congress to try to help. And those are really the issues that I think we'll discuss today.
Congressman.
I'm David Childs, president and owner of Midland Cotton Company in Evansville. We're in the commercial explosive business. We have about 200 employees in 4 states. About 8% of our business is in mining. And we feel the impact of the EPA regulations on coal, which is a reliable, less expensive, more affordable energy. Energy is what drives this country. For every mining job, there's like 5 support jobs. And due to some of the regulations, the EPA's things, the alcohol guys won't understand that it's directly affecting us. I think some of the legislation is passed, which is, the intention is good, but when the regulations are I don't think there's enough monitoring of what the cost of implementing those regulations are. There's some things that you're working on, obviously, in that area. But it's critical to this country, I think, to have all forms of reliable, low-cost energy. And we think coal is part of the process.
Thanks, everyone. And I'm going to quickly summarize kind of what I've heard here today, and then we'll spend some time for questions. A lot of which I'm hearing, I've heard before from business owners around the district. Healthcare uncertainty, you hit the nail on the head, is the biggest overall thing that's stymieing job creation and economic recovery in our country. And uncertainty, when you get down to the specifics, involves the cost of health care as we, the uncertainty over the implementation of the Affordable Care Act in the next 2 years. Uncertainty in the tax code. You're right, I hear from people all the time. Just set the tax rates and we'll deal with it. And I think, unfortunately, you're going to see this fall probably very aggressive campaigning around the country based on the difference view of taxation that will come from the administration and their allies, and that will come from people like me. Regulation, and this is something that I've been very frustrated with in Congress. Most people don't know that in actual fact, Congress has a very difficult time stopping new regulations from happening, because a lot of those are coming from executive branch agencies, and this is not just a new phenomenon. This is something that's been happening for decades under both parties, honestly. And we've tried to address that by getting a little bit more control on the legislative side by a couple of bills, the REINS Act, which was a bill that would address regulations that have an effect of over $100 million on the economy, that they have to be approved before the final rules are written. They have to be approved by Congress. Of course, that's gone nowhere. And we've pushed hard to do, somebody mentioned about when a regulation comes in place, what's the economic impact? Is that actually looked at? I'm on a couple of different committees where we've addressed that with the EPA, for example. And the fact of the matter is that most of the federal regulatory agencies don't look deeply into the economic impact of a proposed rule before it comes out. And I think that's worsened in recent history under the current EPA and other agencies, since I think we've taken a more ideological direction, especially the EPA. So the Congress is trying to push back and trying to get more legislative ability to prevent regulation that's not scientifically based, and that will have a large effect on our economy. And that's a struggle because we don't have the ability to do it. And even if we did right now in the current climate, of course we have divided government, so we have to have everybody agree. The House could pass something, but the Senate can pass something, and both won't come to an agreement on what moves forward. And that's a big problem. The lack, I think, of a long-term federal energy plan, I think, is one of the biggest problems I see in Washington, D.C. We don't really have a plan for our energy future right now, and we haven't had it for a long time in our country. Looking at, from a practical standpoint, where our strengths are and what are economically feasible approaches to a sustainable energy plan that will make us less dependent on foreign sources of energy. And I firmly believe that if we utilize our natural resources, including coal and natural gas and oil that we have available in our own country, that's being stymied by regulation and differences of opinion on when it comes to the environment, we can become more energy independent, stabilize our energy costs, make sure that businesses have low-cost energy. Because, for example, it's Alcoa, 2/3 of your costs of probably your energy generation, your energy usage, 60%.
One-third of the cost, I think, is from energy.
1/3. And that's typical of a lot of industries. And if that cost were to go up by 10–20% in Indiana, we're going to lose jobs and businesses, not only to other states, but to other countries. And so a long-term energy plan that includes utilizing our natural resources is something that we're pushing for. And then the lack of skilled workers is a huge problem. I talk to a lot of people. There are a lot of jobs out there in this area and in the country. And we just purely don't have the people that have the appropriate skills to take them. And that's a very difficult challenge, because I think that's been something that's been developing for a few decades. Probably back in the 70s, we really pushed hard for 4-year education, which I'm all in for. But I think we lost a little bit of our vision about people that also can go into skilled jobs that may not require 4-year education and be very successful in our society. My best friend from high school is an auto mechanic, but he's not just an auto mechanic. He's like the head auto mechanic of a big dealership in suburban St. Louis, which is a very highly technical job with computer skills and all of these things. He recognized that that was the direction he wanted to take. Out of high school, I think we've gotten, part of the reason we have a skills deficit is we need to, and I think Congressman Pence has said this also, we need to recognize where people's strengths are and promote people to develop their own skill sets where their strengths are, so that everybody has the skilled workers they need, and everybody has a job. And we're working towards that. I'm on the Education and Workforce Committee, and we're talking about this particular issue a lot in Washington, D.C. about our educational system and how we really need to revamp some of the direction that we've taken so that we can have skilled workers. And on the other side of that, from the federal government, somebody talked about the inability to get people to work because they don't have to, because of programs that are available that have been extended for long periods of time. Look, I was in healthcare for many years, and I took care of everybody because that's my job. I have a lot of empathy for everyone. I want everyone to be successful. I want every family to be successful. But on the other hand, we have to make sure that we have safety net programs in place that also encourage people to as someone mentioned, grab the bootstraps and move forward in their lives, and not, in my view, be trapped in a system. It's not the people, for the most part, it's the system that has trapped people in an inability to become employed because they can't afford it, and they do better on safety net programs than they said, in my view, for too long. They need to be appropriately sized. So we're working on that. You have anything?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this has really been fascinating to sit here and listen to this. Thank you so much, Congressman, for conducting this today, because you're getting, and all of you for attending on a Monday morning when I know what it's like. You get there and you go into the office on Monday. That's when you're organizing your week. So thank you so much for coming. You're giving that voice to what we're seeing in the studies that we do. We've mentioned, I mean, uncertainty is this huge cloud that's hanging over our economy right now. And I've heard it over here, just do it, just decide what you're going to do. Right now, we've got just way too many things that are pending. We've got over 400 federal rules pending at the moment. We have things like farm dust. We're going to regulate farm dust, which is, anybody, ever bother to drive by a farm and see what they do during the season? There's the National Labor Relations Board, the posting rule, where you're going to have to post that you have the right to join a union, and here's how you do it. And there's nothing, by the way, on there about how you might decide to not join a union, or how you might vote the union out. I mean, but that's something that, and of course, if you don't have that posted, you will be fined. Spilled milk. We're going to regulate spilled milk like toxic waste? Seriously? And they are currently conducting spy missions over family farms out west in a number of states where the EPA, in order to catch somebody maybe with cow poop getting into the water system, they are actually conducting surveillance missions, treating family farms like the Taliban. So it's.
She's not making that up.
This is absolutely true. So we've got people sitting in rooms thinking of these things instead of, yet everybody's giving lip service to what about small business and entrepreneurs and how important they are to our economy. Some people really mean it, and we thank you for that, for doing the kind of things that you're doing. Actually, if they would just listen to what you've said here, uncertainty, the health care. Oh, by the way, NFIB was the lead plaintiff on the healthcare lawsuit. So it has been the #1 issue that since we've been tracking issues has been the cost and of course affordability of healthcare for small businesses, their families, and employees. It continues. And of course, we also heard skilled workers, the lack of skilled workers. We're hearing that as well. No one is going to hire if they don't know what their tax burden is going to be, their regulatory burden, or their health care costs. I mean, these are kind of simple things, but nobody seems to be getting it. The tax issue, when the president talks about 250,000, those making over $250,000 a year should be paid more. Well, that's going to hit the small business owners because 75% of Indiana's small businesses are organized as a sub-S or as a pass-through entity, so therefore they pay at the individual level. So that's the money that they use to expand their business, to hire people, to train people, to buy equipment, is in that amount that they're coming after you for. So anyhow, thank you so much. I mean, there's a lot that we have to be concerned about, but this is a huge election for us. Yes. Huge. I mean, people need to know how this affects their bottom line, their business bottom line, and their families.
A couple of things. In our dealing, most of the time in the community development, small cities and towns, which are a business, and they need to be operated like a business, and we need people that are elected that operate like a business because there's no lot of problems. But one thing I was thinking of coming over, they're talking about the possibility of another stimulus, just a possibility. Well, the last stimulus that was created went to entitlements. Everybody was waiting, we were waiting to hear all the money. Well, all of the small cities under 50,000 populations or counties, which need the money and compete in nonprofits, received zero in these 4 counties, at least I can say. And all the stimulus money went to the city of Evansville, which is an entitlement. I'm not sure how the money was spent. I'm not criticizing them at all because I don't go through their records, but it didn't really help like everybody thought it was going to help because there wasn't some kind of competitive program for people to go after it. So when I heard that, I thought it just sounds good, but it's not really good if you're going to keep doing this for just the entitlements. Another thing that I was thinking of is that in our applications that we do, and we've done a lot for businesses and for the cities and towns, we build water and sewer and community centers and libraries and daycares and homeless shelters, and we've been doing levees and dam clearance, etc. It didn't used to be that way because I've been doing this for 25 years, and now they made the paperwork so difficult, including some of the online grants.gov paperwork that, just for instance, one agency was down 4 months and we're working to try to get an application in for a business. We finally get it in and they tell us we don't use the right thing. Well, we can't get on your site, so we had to use what we had. So we just recently had a site visit with it, some of your concerns, and they never even read it. We sent it by paper and sent it, so they started criticizing what we wrote for this business. I said, did you not see this, see this, see this? Well, actually, we had to go to DC to fight for it, and I'm in Chicago, and I really didn't want to go out there. So, people are putting their time and effort into doing these applications to the federal government, and nobody even read it. And then, so these are just a couple of the concerns. The last thing, I talked about trying to help revitalize the EDA loan that the city of Evansville has, and I think it is now going to start working. And it was so restricted because of federal guides that your jobs you create, you could only, for every job you created, you could only get $5,000 for that job. Well, in this economy, so we've upped that to $35,000, but it has taken us a year and a half to get EDA to approve the new plan. Now they sent it back with a couple of questions, which I'm sure when we send it back, it'll take another year to get it. So in the meantime, the money is just sitting there when it could be putting small business owners to work, giving them operating capital and doing something for people. So, and that's I'm not even in that line of work, because the workforce development part of their staff and small business is in our same building, and they are at my office every day saying, is there money, somebody wants to start this business, they have a great plan, just need the seed capital, and the banks won't lend them the money, and that's what this money is for high-risk startup businesses. So if there's anything we can do to get that money back, where we can help people start their businesses.
Well, in closing, I want to comment on and address your issue as a bigger part of it is happiness. When I see being new to politics, being in healthcare, this is my first term. I still consider myself, an outsider. And let me tell you, there's a lot of new members of Congress, honestly on both sides, that are people, more and more people like myself who decided to get into government. And I think we're going to make a significant progress soon, I hope. But your issue and your dealings with the Veterans Administration are a classic example of where the federal government has gone. It's appalling to me that a person who's a veteran of any conflict, or whether they served their country and didn't get called up but were there ready to go, and if their country needed them, that they have to be treated like this through the Veterans Administration. And we hear this in our office all the time. It's not that I think that the VA is malicious, but the VA is a very big federal bureaucracy, and that's the problem. The government hasn't done what businesses did a couple of decades ago to streamline their operations and have less people in middle management. The government has more and more people whose desk a piece of paper has to cross before somebody will make a decision. I found that to be one of the most frustrating things in the federal government is who can actually make a decision. And I've gone to where I don't talk. If I call, like the other day I called over to EPA. I want to talk to Lisa Jackson. She's the head person, but I ended up talking to one of her deputies. Because I've gone and not talking to people that can't make a decision in the federal government. It's a waste of our time. And when I look at it, I say, okay, a member of Congress trying to get through to VA or EPA or whatever, and how difficult it is for our office and for me personally to actually talk to someone at these agencies that we can make a decision. Imagine what all of you and all of the other citizens in our country are going through trying to get the federal government to act. It's very, very difficult. So for me, my focus is going to be, it has been and will continue to be on that side of it. We need to downsize our federal agencies like the private sector has done. We don't need, there's a lot of good people, a lot of good federal workers are working hard, but they're in a system that doesn't allow for efficiency and doesn't allow for to get the job done. We need to fix that. How can the Congress do that? Really, the only thing we can do is address the funding level for these agencies, and we've tried to address that. We need federal agencies. We need federal agencies to look at regulation, and no one's saying we don't. But we need to be more efficient, effective, and honestly scientific when we try to regulate our society, including looking at the economic impacts of what we're doing with regulation. On the health care side, all of you probably know, I think the Affordable Care Act's the wrong direction to take. I've thought that for a long time. I think we're going to see eventually, if it is fully implemented, that private sector health insurance is going to slowly go away. All of us will be, all of you, including myself. By the way, it's a fallacy that Congress doesn't have people like me be on the exchange just like everybody else. Now, the executive branch and the leadership staff in Congress will not. That is true. But that's wrong. But I have serious concerns about the future of health care. My concern for me, obviously, is my patients. Where people get affordable quality health care at efficiently and effectively when they need it. That's part of the reason I'm working towards trying to get the cost down with private sector solutions that we all know we need. We know we need insurance reform. We know we need tort reform. These are common sense things that everybody knows on both sides. Everybody in DC knows these things. And I'm not making that up. I mean, you talk to people privately, everybody knows what needs to be done. And the frustration is that because of our current political climate, we can't do it. We can't get it done. On the taxation side, I think all the current tax rates need to be ultimately made permanent, but for sure extended for 1 year right now, which is, I think, what we need to get done. Somebody addressed the estate tax. When you look at small businesses, especially family-owned businesses, not only farms but other businesses, this is a huge issue. If that goes back to where it was before, you will see significant problems, less charitable giving, all kinds of things that will need to be addressed. Especially, you know this at our, if you have, in people's wills and stuff, if they have estate tax that's really high, who gets cut out of the picture? It's charities, charitable giving. It's a downstream effect. So that's my position on taxation. Ultimately, I think we need broad tax reform, which I'm in favor of, especially on the corporate side and the individual side. But on the corporate side, our tax code is the worst in the world for competitiveness for our businesses in this country. We have the highest top tax rate. We have all kinds of loopholes that move the economy here and there and all over the place that are in some instances unfair, and especially for a small business may not have access to certain tax incentives that larger companies do. But the other thing we have is we don't have what's called our territorial tax system, which everybody else in the world has. We force our American companies to keep all their capital overseas and not reinvest in America. Trillions of dollars right now of American investment sitting overseas that could be reinvested into our own country. Cook Medical Group, as you probably saw, this, which is an Indiana-based company, just announced this week, based on a number of factors, but primarily the tax code as it relates to the 2.3% device tax in the Affordable Care Act, will be expanding overseas when they have plans for 5 plants in the Midwest to build medical devices. This is a big company. If you haven't seen it, look it up. Cook Medical Group. This is what we're doing to our businesses. We have to stop it. Again, this is another area where everybody in Washington, D.C. knows this, on both sides. But stakeholders, on each side have their opinions, and Washington, D.C. leaders need to step up to the plate and do the right thing. Find common ground and move forward. So that's what I'm trying to do. I really appreciate hearing from all of you today about your issues. Some, like yours, touch base again with our office, because we put a lot of pressure on you. And I will make personal calls to the VA system myself to resolve this if I can't get somebody to make a decision. Because it's very difficult to get people to make decisions. And any other issues you may have with the federal government, please contact our office, and we will do our best to assist you. And again, final thing I'd like to say then to close is that I'm extremely optimistic about America. I really genuinely believe that. And the reason is because every time throughout our history in this country, when we're in tough times, we always persevere. And I think even though it sounds like a gloom and doom environment right now for American business and for our country financially, we will persevere again. We will, because everybody in Washington, D.C. knows what we have to do. We just have to have people with courage to do it. And Washington, D.C. does lack some courage.